clear of the closing doors, please.
All right, here we go. Subway Sports Talk. My name is Peter Kennedy, and I'm your host. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning into SST on Apple Podcast app, Spotify, and on YouTube. Also, don't forget, Subway Sports Talk is available on Friday mornings at 9 a.m. on Radio Garden State. RadioGardenState.com. You could also listen on your Alexa devices. Just ask Alexa to play Radio Garden State on the TuneIn app, and boom, bam, bing, you're listening to Subway Sports Talk at 9 a.m. on Friday mornings. But right now, you might be listening on Spotify or YouTube or Apple Podcast app. And thank you for wherever you're listening. We appreciate you all the same. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, do all that fun stuff. But now it's time to talk about sports. So that's why we're here. My name is Peter Kennedy, and I'm joined by Andrew Calagna. Andrew Calagna, our designated hitter for the evening. What's up, brother?
How's it going? Ready to break down the big acquisitions of the day, my friend. Precious Achiuwa and Ryan Lindgren, both signing same day. Big day for Madison Square Garden. Knicks and Rangers, baby. Let's talk about it. Let's break it down.
I did not know where you were going with that one. And for all of our listeners at home, you know Drew always likes to hit us with something out of left field to start off the podcast. And when you said the acquisitions, I thought you were going to be serious for a second and talk about our Mets and Yankees here and what they did or did not do at the trade deadline. But you still kept me off guard with a little Knicks and Rangers drop there. Precious Achiuwa back. How exciting for Precious. And who, Lundgren? Lindgren?
Ryan Lindgren.
Lindgren. Is there not a Lundgren as well?
Possible.
Or is maybe I'm just wrong and the names are the names.
Yeah.
That's possible too. But yes, of course, we're excited about our Knicks and our Rangers. But here we are to talk about baseball. Our designated hitter, Andrew Calagna, is here to do just that. And we got to talk about the New York Yankees, Drew. We're going to talk about the Mets a little bit later on. And also, if you're listening on the podcast app, tomorrow you'll hear a breakdown of Deadpool and Wolverine, as well as some Marvel talk at large, because there's some Marvel talks to be had as well. I finally saw the movie on Monday evening, and you'll hear some of our thoughts on tomorrow's podcast. But if you're here on Radio Garden State, you'll hear it at the end of the episode. So stay tuned for that as well. And we'll obviously give a spoiler warning when that comes about as well. But New York Yankees, Jazz Chisholm, couple home runs in his first action as a New York Yankee. Very exciting. How many wins has it led to? We're kind of up in the air on that as we are in extra innings, but me and Drew had to start this podcast. So Jazz Chisholm, the marquee trade move for the New York Yankees. And Drew, I made the statement last week on this very podcast that if Brian Cashman didn't go out there and make a move, that it was a major bag fumble because of Juan Soto, because of that contract, because you know you have two of the three best hitters in baseball on your team right now. It was absolutely imperative for Brian Cashman to move the chips to the center of the table, something he doesn't always do. And then the Jazz Chisholm news comes out, but there wasn't much more after that. So my question to you, does this move, A, make you feel good about Jazz Chisholm joining the team? And B, does it make you feel good enough for the entire team's standpoint of where they are right now entering August?
Listen, Jazz has made his impact felt almost immediately. The vibes and the energy he brings to the team has been immaculate. There's no argument, absolutely no argument here on that. Outside of Jazz Chisholm, who's probably the biggest name that was moved in the deadline in all of Major League Baseball, unless you know how much stock you put in Jack Flaherty going into the Dodgers. But outside of that, you know, as you said last week, Brian Cashman needed to push his chips absolutely in to the center of the table, and that did not happen today. Again, I love Jazz Chisholm, and you know, you get Giancarlo Stanton back. Jason Dominguez is he's healthy in AAA, he's starting to hit, and he'll probably come up sooner than later. So, you know, Cashman always likes to give those, well, you know, we couldn't have gotten a better, you know, Stanton and Dominguez being healthy is like making the best trade you could possibly make, which is, I get that's fine, but you still had other holes on the roster that you should be, you know, trying to reinforce. Like, again, Stanton is he's injury prone. There's no guarantee that he is not going to get injured again. It's the same with Dominguez. Like, great, that's awesome that they're going to come back, but you still had other opportunities. There were still platoon outfielders, which I would love to see them switch up with Verdugo, because he can't hit lefties. It's very apparent all year that he can't do that. So those type of guys were moved, and they were kind of silent on that. They definitely need another starting pitcher. Garrett Cole was scratched tonight because of body fatigue, and they feel like he just needed another rest and a break. And Luis Heel is on a complete an innings limit. He's on the biggest workload he's had in his entire career. So you need kind of safeguards there on the roster going forward for in the starting rotation. They just wasn't addressed, unfortunately. They did address the bullpen. Mark Leiter is that strikeout guy that they need. Santos that they got is also that strikeout guy that they need. So you address the bare minimum that I feel like you needed to address, but if you really wanted an A+ deadline, you need to go out and address first base, outfield, and the rotation. That just didn't happen. So I'd probably give them a C minus on the deadline. Chisholm's great. I love Mark Leiter. I've been, I picked him up in fantasy every now and then. He's a low key, strikeout guy. He gets holds for you in fantasy. For a little tip for me to you and to the viewers out there. But I feel like his Brian Cashman's trading deadline left a lot to be desired, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, Cody coined it last week on the podcast that he wanted to see Brian Cashman go out there and shop hungry. And I think that's such a good analogy, right? If you go to the grocery store and you're hungry, you're going to buy some things that maybe you don't even need. But guess what? You kind of want them, and maybe they'll come in handy down the road, right? You almost rather have too many things in a season like this than not enough stuff. Cashman did not shop hungry. My man ate a nice, healthy lunch before going to that grocery store and picked up the bare minimum. And that's really the matter of the fact there. He picked up the bare minimum. I think that a C is probably a touch low for where I'd grade it. I think Jazz Chisholm by himself kind of makes this a C+B- deadline for the New York Yankees. And I know you can look at his numbers and you could easily argue that, oh, it's not that impressive what he has put out this season. His best season was 2 seasons ago, not even last season. So there's arguments to be made about Jazz Chisholm not being, an off-the-charts trade move for the New York Yankees. But what he brings to this team was so needed that I think it makes up for any statistical output that he didn't have when he was in Miami. First of all, the bags that he can take. This guy's a base stealer. He already got 20+ on the season. That didn't exist on this Yankees team. They were second to last, I believe, in stolen bases in the MLB. And not that that's everything, but when you're an offense that clearly was struggling in multiple facets of the lineup there, you need to manufacture things in different ways. Jazz Chisholm can do that. Jazz Chisholm also can hit for power. We've seen it already. 4 home runs in his first 3 games as a New York Yankee. That's amazing. Not like he's going to go out here and finish the year with 45 home runs. That's not who Jazz Chisholm is. But he has a power. He has the speed. He also has defensive versatility. I think those 3 things combined with his little bit more of a flair to his game, a little bit more of an energy, you have to feel good about it. Now, I had mixed responses, I felt like, from the Yankee fans in my life generally. Some people were like, yes, this is great. You being one of them, understanding what he brings to the table. Other people saying it's not nearly enough and he isn't good enough. I don't care that he, steals bases or whatever. His output's not much better than what we had already. To that, whatever. We can agree or disagree. I think he's a clear upgrade to what you had before the deadline. However, what you just said, there was still pieces to be had at this deadline. And the whole Giancarlo Stanton thing, if he's healthy and comes back normal pace for himself, because we know he can start slow upon return. If he's back to what he was even doing in the first portion of the season here, and you have Jazz Chisholm, this lineup instantly is better by a large margin, right? Jazz Chisholm being an average hitter to this point. I believe when he got traded, his OPS was like a 105. OPS plus was a 105. So he was just slightly above average, hardly, right? Even that puts him at like the 3rd best hitter on the Yankees for the season, right? Like you can't say it enough. There's been no other good hitter on this team since Giancarlo Stanton's gotten hurt. So if Stanton is who he was before he got hurt and Jazz Chisholm is who he generally is back of his baseball card, instantly this lineup's better. To that, I believe we are at a B- C+ range and not a C minus. However, all your other points are absolutely true. Juan Soto's here right now. Aaron Judge is here, the best player in baseball right now. Why are you not attacking this championship window? It doesn't make sense. But at the same time, Drew, Brian Cashman, it's kind of been his MO He's not a full chips in the center of the table guy. He's not a shop hungry guy. It's not what he does. It's probably why Hal Steinbrenner loves him so much, because he doesn't break the bottom dollar or the the bottom line. So it's a mixed bag. There's excitement and there's disappointment, almost equal parts at this point.
Yeah, and the reason why I kind of graded it a little bit lower than what you gave, and again, all your points are completely valid on Chisholm's athleticism, what he brings to the table, especially that base running ability and the base stealing ability that has been sorely missing on this offense. The problem is that he's an imperfect fit on the way the roster is currently constructed. Okay, you're just throwing him at third base and saying, "Hey, hope it sticks. Hope you're good enough to be able to figure it out there." And that's the best way you're gonna go. It's a la Gary Sheffield playing first base at 2007 or 2006.
Frankly,
whatever.
Jazz looks fine at third, though. No.
Oh, he does.
Doesn't he kind of?
That's so far. That's
True.
so far. He's athletic enough, but you're talking an inexperienced guy. If there's a certain play when it actually matters, who knows? Who knows? I think you kind of future proofed yourself a little bit. I think he still has 2 more years of control on him, so I think he's your second baseman going into next year, and you figure out third base again in the offseason. But and it's an imperfect fit right now because you didn't trade away Gleyber Torres, you didn't trade away Verdugo for him to play every day, so you kind of just forcing him there because third base has been such a black hole for the Yankees. To begin with, DJ LeMahieu is now a part-time player, which is a big improvement over him starting every day. And Oswaldo Cabrera, he's had his moments here and there, but he's not a starting caliber third baseman. He's more of a utility player. So it's good that you have now be able to move those 2 guys down on the depth chart a little bit, but you still have an inexperienced Ben Rice at first base, who after that 3-run home run game, he hasn't really done anything offensively for the Yankees. And then you're kind of just hoping that Rizzo comes back after, he's looked toast, absolutely toast. So that's kind of your plan A. So not really feeling, again, the lack of a lot of hopes. You got to hope Stanton stays healthy. You got to hope Dominguez is able to just come up again and be that spark plug. You got to hope that Rizzo comes back and, just suddenly turns the clock back 2 years pre-concussion. So for a team that has only won Soto for 1 year, you've left a lot up to chance, and that's not something I feel entirely comfortable with, and not most Yankee fans shouldn't feel comfortable with it either.
Yeah, you're 100% right, and it just goes back to that main point here of not doing enough. It's just not enough. It's almost hard though to trade for a guy with that versatility and be like, it's not a good fit. It's weird, right? Like, you needed help at a multitude of positions. You traded for one of the more athletic, versatile players, and it still felt like not enough. But another thing, though, Drew, on the Alex Verdugo point, since the news of the Jazz Chisholm trade, he's probably played his best baseball since, in the past 2.5 months, right? He had tons of hits in Boston. Maybe he was comfortable being back in Boston. I don't know. Batted first in this game on Tuesday night, but whatever. He looked better since that news. Is that a possibility of reading into something there? That little light in his ass? Say, hey, here's a little fire under your ass, Verdugo. Go earn your keep, or else you're going to be out of this place.
Also true, and also I feel like Jazz wears a big chain, Verdugo wears a big chain. He's got a vibes buddy to to hang out with in the dugout. So maybe be able to turn it around that way. And and there were rumors or the Twitter mongering of like Jazz Chisholm. Yankees are concerned Jazz Chisholm's not a fit for the clubhouse. I'm just like, how is that possible? How is that?
I hated
that. My God. That sounded like your uncle, like calling the WFAN and saying, "I didn't like his hat was backwards." It's not the Yankee way. Like, come on, man. It's just get out of here.
I saw the picture of his first game when he was in Boston. The Yankees official account on Instagram posted like a slide of maybe 5 or 6 pictures or something like that. And I guess It was before a game, right? So he wasn't like
Yeah.
super smiley necessarily. He kind of just looked like he was getting ready for the game. One picture, he looked a little smiley. One picture, he had his hat backwards, running towards the sideline or towards the foul line. And I'm like, do I do it? Do I click the comments? Do I see what I know I'm gonna see? And there's too many times on social media where you're like looking at a video or a picture and you're like, I know what's in these comments. I don't even need to click on it to know what's in these comments. And then I'm like, I got to do it. I click on the comments, and there it is, number 2, 3, 5, and 7. It's like backwards hat. Why would this guy ever fit on the Yankees? George Steinbrenner rolling in his grave. Like, yo, are you serious? Like, this is the dumbest shit I've ever heard from Yankees fans. It's like, and then thankfully in between 2, 3, and 5 there, the fourth comment was, let this team grow a freaking beard, please. Like, you know what I mean? So at least you get the counterbalance of some people in the comments being like, all right, Yankees fans, like freaking relax. Who do you think you are? You guys haven't done nothing. So I'm at least happy those people exist too. But it was so obvious that this man was going to post a picture with his chain and a backwards hat. He didn't even post it. The Yankees posted it. The official Yankees account posted it. You think if they didn't like the backwards hat, they would have posted it? They don't care. I bet most people for this organization don't freaking care anymore. They're just too afraid to change tradition. Like, I've been screaming about this for a little while. It doesn't matter. End of the day, I don't really care. It's more of just a nitpick. Yeah, they should be able to have a freaking beard. Like Austin Wells, you can see how hard he's working on that damn mustache. You think it's helping him? You think he's more serious because he ain't got a beard? It's dumb. We all know it's dumb, except for you handful of Yankees fans who are in the comments mad about a backwards hat. It's so dumb. It was so predictable. And I'm happy Jazz is earning his keep early and getting all those people on his side.
Yeah. And listen, there'll be one player eventually that'll come to the Yankees. Like if Aaron Judge tomorrow just said, hey, I want to grow a beard, what are you going to do about it? Like, then the beard thing will be gone. There's going to be one guy with enough clout that's going to come in there and say, like, this is stupid. I'm going to grow a beard. Like, okay, if you want to, you can find a happy medium. You don't have to be full Johnny Damon 2004 full caveman beard. Like you could do, like you have a beard, but you keep it neat. You keep it, keep it trim. There's nothing wrong with that. Just make it look, professional. Even every office now is people in, you're trying to say, oh, it's business like, or it's business attire. Like every office you go into now, if you do still go into an office at any point, like everyone has a beard. Every single person on this planet Earth has a beard now,
women included.
It's very it's just an outdated. Which is very much an outdated tradition at this point. So
yeah, and obviously it's dumb, right? Like it's not a big deal. It is what it is, but it is dumb. At one side it's dumb, and the other side it's dumb. So here we go. Whatever. Who cares, right? But back to that one real quick on that front. My college baseball team, a Division III college baseball team, right? Just to give the context here. So no, I'm not playing for LSU. I'm playing for a Division III college baseball team. Nice competitive division. Great stuff, right? Beautiful. My coach was a bit of a Yankee guy in that sense. Like we're wearing our socks the same way. If someone's got their pants down, we're wearing our pants down. That type of thing, right? Clean uniforms. Every single practice, no matter if it was 100 degrees or 20 degrees, baseball pants, inside or outside, baseball pants. Doesn't matter. That was his style. We even had the NJ logo looked like the Yankees logo. We couldn't have long beards. Guess what? Division I transfer who throws 90 transfers into my team comes in with a beard. Guess what we're allowed to have now? Full beard. Doesn't matter. Guess what? It's all good, baby. Come on. Like, what are we doing here? It's just so silly. But whatever. I digress. On the Jazz Chisholm front, one more thing on him. And this is just from a Mets fan perspective, Drew. With the Yankee fans who are a little bit more, cold water on Jazz Chisholm trade here, I just said this as a Mets fan. Playing him on the Marlins over the past handful of years here, I just know how I feel when you play against certain guys. And the stats are the stats, and that's a beautiful thing about baseball. We have a good feeling about who's performing how. However, similarly to basketball or football, when you see a certain guy with the ball in football, you get scared. When you see a certain guy in basketball take a shot and it makes you nervous, it's just how you feel as a fan. And I can say this with full passion here. Jazz Chisholm, whether his OPS plus was an 85 or a 185, you felt his presence in the lineup. You absolutely did. And I think that's going to be the case here for the Yankees. And even though he's not, lighting the world on fire. He's not an all-star like he was 2 years ago. He is a presence. He is a real hitter who pitchers have to take seriously, and he's proven that already. So I'm happy on that front. And, I'm happy that he's on the Marlins anymore because the Mets always struggle with the Marlins, and he was part of the reason why. Okay, so I, as a Mets fan, am saying from the get-go, you're going to like this guy. You're going to like how he plays, even with some of the things that he does that's un-Yankee-like or whatever the hell. He plays an aggressive style. He plays good defense. He gets extra bags, and you're going to like him, and he's proven it already. So I don't know if you have anything else to add on Jazz.
You also you can't discount the fact that, the last couple of years he's been kind of mediocre with batting lines, but you're playing for the Marlins. You're not, you are not a playoff team going into the year. You understand that. You understand that your stadium's going to be empty. You understand that, you're basically just trying to get through the season healthy and make it to free agency. Basically, that is your goal, or hope to get traded at some point if you're playing good enough that you get traded at some point. And, now that he is a part of a pennant race and has a legitimate chance to win a World Series with this team, you see like he seems a little more energetic. He seems like he is just ready to go balls to the walls and run through a wall, like he's just ready to go. And that's kind of that's definitely a vibe, and that's definitely something that this team kind of desperately needs.
And you gotta hope too on that front, like a player coming from Miami where the team is hopeless and there's nothing to play for, going to the Yankees where it seems like it's doomsday. That's a teaser for our last segment, doomsday. How about that? But it seems like it's doomsday in the Bronx, and this guy from Miami shows up and be like, yo, y'all are how many games above 500? You're how many games out of the division? Why is everyone so sad? What's going on here? This seems pretty chill, actually. This seems kind of awesome. Like, what's going on? It's like you hope that that's the vibe here, where it can like loosen up and lighten the situation, and you felt that already. But let's move on from Jazz and talk about some other things. On the offensive front, we talked about what he does to the lineup, and you talked already about some of the other aspects to this lineup here, Drew. Nothing else really happened offensively for the Yankees at this deadline here. Obviously, the Stanton and Dominguez thing is a hopeful thing here, but just overall confidence. Where was it a week ago for the Yankees lineup to where it is right now? How much has it changed, if changed at all?
Well, it really is dependent on Giancarlo Stanton and Jason Dominguez, because the Jazz it's that spark plug. So I feel better about it overall. Again, when you put those three players in, you're replacing Verdugo, you're replacing LeMahieu, and you're replacing Jahmai Jones, who is DHing, batting first, and that was just the absolute low point of the Yankees season, when there was Jahmai Jones batting first and JD Davis batting fourth in between Stanton and between Soto and Judge. So you have to feel better overall about this offense going forward. You just don't feel the best about, you're just hoping and praying that these guys stay healthy going forward. And, that's the lineup that you can go into October with, and that you're not, kind of scrambling for a DH, or you're scrambling for an outfielder and playing Verdugo in places where he shouldn't be playing. So if everyone stays healthy, this has a potential to be a difference-making offense. But, a few things need to break right. And you just would have liked a little more certainty, going forward. But if this is the squad, this is the squad,
Absolutely. You're right. It's better. It's clearly better. But we'll see how much better. That's the question with the Stanton and Dominguez stuff as well.
Yeah.
And if DJ LeMahieu could ever come back to any sort of planet that's known to man as an offensive player.
It's not happening.
Not likely. Doesn't feel good.
No.
On the pitching front, Drew, we mentioned some of the minor moves that were made. Leiter, who was just actually in the game, and thank God we started recording, because this game on Tuesday night, for anyone listening later in the week, is still going on. We're in the 12th. The Yankees up 7-6. Still hasn't ended, but here we are recording. So the pitching staff, which in the beginning of the year obviously had health besides Garrett Cole on its side, where that rotation was really kind of mowing through every single week. Now we're dealing with some innings limits. We're dealing with some fatigue. We're dealing with guys coming down to earth a little bit. The bullpen and Clay Holmes has been a question mark, which is new territory for the Yankees here. So with now the bullpen in this rotation, confidence a week ago to confidence today, how much does it change, if it's changed at all?
No, they got the what they needed were the strikeout components, and those, Mark Leiter's got like a 34% strikeout percentage on the year, so that definitely takes care of that weakness. Santos is a big strikeout guy. They're two guys where you look at the stuff rather than what their ERA says. I think they're both in the mid to high fours, but their strikeout stuff is exactly the kind of counterbalance to the soft contact. Getting killed by 1,000 paper cuts. Clay Holmes, that's been that him and Tonkin have been kind of giving you night in, night out. When they do give up hits, it's those soft ground balls that it just feels kind of worse when that happens. Like, I'd rather just give up like a hard base hit when like you get dinked and dunked to death. It's terrible. It's like kind of the worst way to lose a little bit is to watch like a squibber go by down the third baseline, or like, something that's just out the outreach of Glaber or Volpe. So, to have those strikeout guys in there now to be able to, kind of give those, a different look to the opponent, to your opponent batters. I think that's a good thing overall. Again, the rotation, Rodon has looked like he's changed his pitch mix up a little bit. So I think there's a big positive there. The issue seems to be with Stroman and Cortez seems to be they're giving up home runs at a large pace, and the Garrett Cole seems to be a slight issue too. But you do have Clark Schmidt coming back eventually. So again, it's like making a trade. I really would have liked them to go get Jack Flaherty, but when you get him back, then you can kind of make an assessment there. If you move Heel to the bullpen come playoff time, that might be a multi-inning weapon there, but he might be too good for you to kind of take out of the rotation at this point. He's kind of still the Yankees' second best starter, and you have to thank Luis Severino for that, because he was struggling a little bit. Severino said, "Hey, adjust your slider, this, that, and the other," and he did, and he's been great every time out. So Luis Severino, still true Yankee, and love you, Sevy.
Yeah, shout out to Sevy on both sides. We'll get to him and the Mets in just a moment here. But Drew, we've talked about this for a couple of years now, that the Los Angeles Dodgers are the modern day Yankees of those 90s and 2000s. And it hurts more so that the guy, Jack Flaherty, who you wanted, ended up in Los Angeles, where seemingly everyone ends up. They're a team that continuously puts their chips on the table. And, you can criticize them for some of their postseason woes as well. But if you're a Dodgers fan, you can't really look at the organization and say, you're not trying, right? Whereas with the Yankees, that is a sentiment that many Yankee fans feel. You're not trying, right? So last thing to put a pin in this Yankees conversation here, Drew, where are you at from an organizational standpoint now? Like, with this trade deadline, obviously you kind of expressed already that your expectations were not met. But now heading through the rest of the season and into the offseason, not that I want to look ahead because this team's very much still in play to make noise entering the postseason here. But organizationally, where are you at with this team? Where are you at with Cashman and Boone and the whole nine? And Soto, obviously going to be looking for a huge contract. Are you feeling confident? Are you feeling like the Yankees are the Yankees, or are you getting a little bit nervous about some of the way things can play out?
Yeah, well, it really all depends on how they end the year. If they go deep into the playoffs and lose in the CS, then you can kind of, and depends on how they lose, or or if you have best case scenario and they win a World Series, then you could feel a lot better, obviously, going into the offseason and Juan Soto and all that. But right now, again, it feels like they did the bare minimum. Aaron Boone is still Aaron Boone, and just not being a great manager, and he's not leaving until Cashman leaves, and if this team, which is still very much in the American League East, is able to overtake the Orioles and win the East and go out, then you're still going to see those two running things going forward. But if the only way that Boone is not here next year is if the Yankees could have some kind of historical collapse, or they don't make the playoffs, or they get knocked out in the first round, something along those lines is It's the only way that organizational shakeup is going to happen, and it just starts from the top down. Hal Steinbrenner is just content with what he's content with, and that's not going to change. So, they have the talent. They have guys on the roster right now to make the playoff run. Things just have to break right, and you would like more certainty. You would like to see what the Yankees do, what the Dodgers do, is try to give themselves as much certainty as possible going into the postseason. Try to plug up as many holes as they can, making creative moves. And I still don't understand how the Yankees going to top the package that the Dodgers gave up for Flaherty, but it is what it is at this point. So, the Hal Steinbrenner sets the tone. It will continue to set the tone of good enough's good enough. But, the Yankees still have a roster that is loaded with talent from top to bottom. You just, again, you would like a little more certainty, and, it's see what happens when you make the playoffs. That's really just, that's Cashman and Hal's mandate is make the playoffs and see what happens. And, that's kind of just where we're at. And it'll continue where we're at until something drastic happens, which I just don't see.
And with all the doom and gloom, with all the negativity, the Yankees are a half game behind the Baltimore Orioles. They are 19 games above 500. They did get better at this trade deadline, even if it wasn't as much as Yankee fans hoped. So there's still plenty of reason to tune into this team. Even for all the Yankee fans out there, who many of them are in group chats that I'm in, who are saying, I can't stand this team. I'm over it. I can't do it. Whatever. You're still here. Well, the Yankees are still here, brother. Like, come on. We're being negative a lot. We're talking about the flaws, but this team is still here. They still have one of the best run differentials in baseball. And yes, of course, the numbers over the past month and a half have been painful. They've been hurtful. The record over that past month and a half has been painful and hurtful for Yankees fans. But you're still here. You're still in it. And really, they're desperate for a home bump. They're desperate for a home bump. They're playing great ball on the road. 15 games above 500 on the road, which is really, really great, or 14 games. I can't.
Well,
do
now
that.
15 games,
so,
they just won. So
I think the standings updated already on ESPN, but nonetheless, 14 or 15 games up above 500 on the road, beating a team like the Phillies, which that's great for the Mets too. Kind of, not that it really matters, but still, it's a good win against a good team, and you feel good about it. You're gonna try to finish this series out strong. So there's a lot of things to still look forward to for the Yankees and the Yankees fans, even if you're disappointed in certain aspects. So that's all I got for the Yankees. Anything else you got for the Yankees here, Drew, before we move to the Mets?
no, you said it perfectly. Let's talk
All right.
about the Mets.
Let's talk about that team that's somehow, 7 or 8 games worse than the Yankees, but more fun, right? That's what it seems like. That's what it's been for the past month and a half. The team is not as good as the Yankees from an overall record standpoint. The team, you can argue, isn't as talented as the Yankees overall, but they're more fun. They're more exciting, and that's just the case. And that's not me being a Mets fan. That's pretty much the general sentiment right now. The Mets beat the Twins for the second time in a row. They're now 7 games above 500, which is mighty fine for this team, the way they started off, and we know where they're at. And like you kind of mentioned, I don't know if this is actually in the podcast or if this was before we started recording, so we'll reiterate it again. They did make moves. They were more marginal moves, but that was kind of the sentiment going into this deadline. We expected the Mets to be light buyers, and that's what they were. You mentioned this, that not one top 100 prospect in all of baseball was moved at this deadline, which is kind of crazy. Even, not including just the Mets and Yankees, by the way. You were talking about the entire league. So that's kind of nuts off the
Entire
bat.
MLB.
But that's what you expected from the Mets. Yeah, that's what you expected from the Mets. So you get Jesse Winker, you get Ryan Stanek, you get a few pieces here, a few pieces there, and you just feel solid still about this team, Drew. So, you gave your grade for the Yankees in the C range for the trade deadline. What do you give the Mets for their trade deadline moves? A little bit of offense, a little bit of pitching, and where are they at now? Or what's your grade, I
Yeah,
should
I
say?
definitely, again, they needed a left-handed outfielder. Jesse Winker, one of sneaky good year for Jesse Winker, and they gave up, they got him for nothing, and they addressed, unfortunately Senga came back and he had that, he was looking good, and then he, tore his ankle or his calf muscle. So unfortunately, but you still got Paul Blackburn, who's a good mid to the back end of the rotation kind of guy, and you got Phil Maton, you got Stanek, you got Brazelbond. You were able to address, the the biggest issues that you had which was the bullpen. You added some good depth pieces. You addressed the outfield on an offense that's already really, really good. So, the Mets have set their strategy of basically we're gonna, bludgeon guys and just hope that our pitching is good enough and holds on. So, Minaya and Severino and Quintana are, and Peterson are not all, they're not the prettiest guys in the world, but they're all solid. They all have ERAs in the mid threes. So, I think good enough is, they addressed exactly those needs. They didn't give up any of their top guys. And there weren't really that many top guys to go out and get. Yeah, like Flaherty was there, but the Dodgers had to give up like a top 10 guy in their system to go out and get him. And, is he that big of a difference maker? Like, he's good. He was the best starting pitcher there, but like Jack Flaherty is having a fine year. But you look at his injury history, you look at, just last year, how he kind of just faded down the stretch for Baltimore after they acquired him. So I don't know. It wasn't worth, especially given the Mets situation that they're in, for them to go out and, spend big or give up prospect capital to get somebody for on a year where, you're looking at being a wild card team, and, you're right there with the Braves, which is, I think any Met fan would sign up come the end of July, beginning of August, saying, hey, we're going to be basically tied with the Braves record wise. Like, the Mets would have signed up for that in a heart. Any Met fan would have signed that up in a heartbeat. So I'd probably give them a B plus as a grade overall. They addressed their needs. They brought in a bunch of solid contributors. Their offense is still elite, and they added a very much a middle of the order bat to put in there between Alonso and Vientos. And you moved McNeil. Your bottom three now is McNeil, Alvarez, and Beta. That's a great 7, 8, 9. Like, there's not much to dislike on the Mets come on this deadline day.
And that's about a firm of B plus as you can get. And the difference with the Mets and Yankees is the expectation, right? Like, the Yankees were hopeful for an A.
Absolutely.
And their A was a big swing. The Mets were hopeful for an A. So you're always hopeful for an A. But the Mets' difference between an A and a B plus wasn't that different, right? There was really no realm where the Mets went out big game hunting, right? That's the term. That wasn't really in the cards for the Mets at all there.
Yeah.
So them kind of doing those marginal moves was kind of the hope all along. And Winker is a guy who Mets fans are familiar with. He's crushed the Mets. They have a history. And he's a great ad because he's not someone you're relying on to now bat third for the team, right? He's batting 5, 6 in that range. And then on certain days off, if he is batting third, you're not going to look at it and go, what the hell is this guy doing, right? Like, he's a real hitter. He's got pop. He can do some things. And then the bullpen was the biggest question mark, because I think the bullpen being just like the bane of the Mets' existence has been so tough for all of us fans. Them adding new arms and new faces to that bullpen, arsenal is really huge. And kind of like you said about, I can't remember the name now of the guy you were just talking, Leiter for the Yankees. Stanek's kind of the same. If you look at his numbers for this season, he's got like a 4-something ERA. It's not pretty, but he's got nasty stuff. He's got strikeout potential. He doesn't walk a lot of people. Almost 48 strikeouts to like 18 walks on the season in 40 innings. So he's striking people out. He's not walking people. He's a really good quality pro reliever. Maton's been good since he's come around. So you feel better about the bullpen. But the biggest blow is not part of the trade deadline. So if you wanted to go, what's the entire grade for the last week for the Mets, and you want to bring Senga into that, yeah, that stings, man. Because I was looking at Senga as this this big punch in the arm, this little shot in the arm to say, hey, we're back. And Sevy, Quintana, Minaya, Peterson, all kind of living as like this really solid number 3, right? They kind of have like 3 or 4 number 3s, which is not a terrible place to be. And then Senga being that 1-2 type of guy would have created this rotation to have a stopper, to have someone when he goes out there, when you're saying, hey, the offense is going through it this week, we need to stop. Let's go, Senga. Like, shut people down. That hurts. That hurts bad that he's in and out. We saw him for 5 and a third, I think it was, and he's gone. Just like that. Well, months and months waiting for updates, getting, he started throwing. Oh, he stopped throwing. Oh, he's throwing now. He's going to start in a week, and then he's gone. It happened in a blink of an eye. And that really, really sucks. Trade deadline by itself is a firm B plus. With the Senga news, you drop it down because you feel worse about it. But like you said, Drew, that foursome of Severino, Quintana Minaya, and Peterson has been good enough. They're not great, and they're individually not even all good, but together they're all
Yeah,
just good enough. And it's completely working for this
exactly.
team right
And you
now.
have the offense to Yeah, and you have the offense to to back that up. You don't need to have ace level pitching staff if you have that offense that be able to support them and score 3, 4, 5, 6 runs a night. You can you can live with those type of guys. You can live with a bunch of 3 stars if you're hitting, and you have a circular lineup 1 through 9, and that's something that the Yankees definitely don't have, even with the addition of Jazz Chisholm. But a circular lineup, probably again top three in baseball, and that's all you need to win. Is that you have an overwhelming offense, and your pitching has to be just good enough, and that's exactly what they are. They are just good enough overall. Between the bullpen and between the rotation. So give the Yankees are in this mode of make the playoffs and see what happens. The Mets are like make the playoffs and see what happens. Like it's a very much a different
It's a tonal
conjecture
thing.
on that. Exactly, absolutely.
It's the same sentiment,
So
not the same sentiment. It's the same words, different sentiment, right? The Yankees
exactly.
are, let's get in and hopefully we get hot. And the Mets are, let's get in because we're about to stay hot. That's the difference right there.
Yep.
And that's really what it's come down to. I think it feels good. I mean, Mets fans are excited to turn on SNY every day. And you're excited to see what this lineup is going to do because it can come from anybody. And especially since the All-Star break, Pete Alonso's on a bit of a tear. Jeff McNeil's on a bit of a tear. And those were the two guys who were absolutely kind of doing nothing. Alonso obviously doing more so than McNeil, because McNeil was just horrendous for the first portion of the year. Alonso was better early, struggled in the middle. Now he's hitting home runs again left and right. All of a sudden, you're just looking at a lineup and you're saying, all right, Lindor's been one of the best hitters in baseball since he moved to the leadoff spot. Nimmo's constantly just very good. JD Martinez, little low, but very good. Alonso, Winker, Vientos. Wow. Opposing pitchers to get through the first 2 innings are going to have to get some tough outs. And it just makes you feel incredibly confident in this team's ability to compete night in, night out. And the big thing you want from your team when you're not a world beater, right? When you're not 20 games above 500 like the Yankees are, what you want from your team is the ability to compete every night. Whether it's a 3-0 run, 3-0 lead for the opposing team in the first inning and you don't feel dead at all, that's what you get in Queens right now. You get a team that when you're down 3 in the 4th, 5th, 6th inning, in the past, we felt dead. The Mets felt like we had no chance as fans. You're watching that and you're like, well, could turn this off. What's that? What else is going on here? Not anymore.
Yeah.
Now you're turning off the game when they're down by 3 and you turn it back on a few innings later and it's tied 3-3. That's what you're getting. And it's a little bit of hyperbole from like the specifics of it all, but that's the atmosphere in Queens right now, and it seems like it might continue. So Drew, what's the confidence here? Obviously, it seems like it's decent, but what's the confidence here the Mets are going to maintain this level of competitiveness, wild card, playoff berth status that they kind of are sitting in at this moment?
And they'll go as far as the offense will carry them. And again, circular lineup with that good of an offense, you have to feel very good about that. And Starling Marte is about to come back too, so you have a 10th guy there that should be starting. That at some point during during the next couple of weeks, that someone of either Marte is going to be on the bench, McNeil will be on the bench, Nimmo will be on the bench, JD Martinez will be on the bench, Winker will be on the bench, or Harrison Bader will be on the bench. Like those are starter level players that you're going to have too many of in the next couple of weeks. So again, the Mets will go as far as their offense will carry them, but again, they have a fantastic offense full of on-base guys, full of stolen bases, power, not just Pete Alonso. Not just him and Lindor. You have power throughout the lineup, up and down. You have to feel very, very good if you're a Mets fan, because the offense will be able to carry you and take you as far as you kind of need to go.
And I think that's the biggest difference from previous Mets teams that were decent. Like the 100-win team from a couple years ago. It really still kind of was that Alonso's the power guy. The rest of the lineup's good enough, and they're making it work. When they won 100 games. But now you are looking at, like, granted, Vientos kind of didn't start on the roster overall. He's still going to get to 20 home runs, it looks like. JD Martinez missed the first month and a half. He's still on that pace to get to 20-plus home runs. Whereas, a couple years ago, Lindor and Alonso, that's it. Those are the home run guys. And, McNeil and Nimmo weren't doing it. Now they're all doing it. They're all hitting for power. They're all hitting for on base. And it just feels really good. So I don't know what else we have to add about the Mets right now. It's one of those points where things are good. Things are smooth. I don't even want to say too much. I think Mets fans are doing a good job generally of saying, hey, we know we're not World Series caliber yet, but we feel like a real playoff team now. And now we at least have the confidence to go to Atlanta, to go to Philly, to go to see the Dodgers or the Yankees for that matter, and say, hey, we're just like you guys. We're just like you. We're not the best yet. We're not getting too ahead of ourselves. We're playing good ball, and we know it. And that's exactly what you need as a fan.
You can't really ask for anything else, especially going into the year with a lot of uncertainty. Where it was okay, so we had this deadline, kind of disastrous deadline, disastrous year last year. We thought we signed these two world beater pitchers who, thank goodness that they traded them away because they've been hurt and ineffective basically all year between the two of them. So imagine you had to deal with another year of that in Queens, of two 40-plus-year-old pitchers over the hill, kind of hanging on there. And the vibe change happened at the deadline. We talked about it last year, where the Mets picked a direction, and now you're seeing the benefits of that decision. Of they made a choice, they choose a path, and now they're reaping what they sowed.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good. All right, Andrew Calagna, Subway Sports Talk with Pete Kennedy and Andrew. Drew, shout out Drew, designated hitter here to talk baseball. That's what we got for the baseball front. But don't forget to subscribe, rate, review on your podcast app or on YouTube. All those likes and comments, man, they all go such a long way. We appreciate it so much. Gets the word out there. And also on social media at Subway Sports Talk. Shout out to all the people who are constantly supporting the social media stuff. I see you guys out there liking and commenting and whatnot. And the more the merrier, man. If you have a take, if you have a shout out, if you have an emoji to drop on a silly old TikTok or Instagram, it means a lot to me. So don't forget to do all that stuff too. That's all we got. Subway Sports Talk, Andrew Calagna, Pete Kennedy. We'll be back soon with more content as always. That's it. Cheers.
See ya.